Welcome to the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast, proudly presented by What If, official travel and pathways partner of the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Here are your hosts, Mark Ellison, Shannon Donato, and Jeremy Monahan.
Well, welcome to the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast, ladies and gentlemen, powered by Audio Technica and proudly presented by What If. What If has you covered for accommodation, flights, car hire and more. So if you're looking for a holiday, travelling for business, or you need to get to the next game, visit whatif.com/Rabbitohs. What If, it's Aussie for travel, and we're all joining you via Zoom today in these COVID times where we all need to be socially distanced. And I don't think we could be any more socially distance, gentlemen. Shannon Donato, Mark Ellison, joining me over the internet today. How are we, gentlemen?
Yeah, very well, Jez. Great to be on again. It's a highlight of our week, I'm sure. Seeing it's such a big moment, I thought you might have tidied your breakfast bar a bit better than you have. But anyway, that's okay. We'll go on with it.
I'm just getting my daughter's awards on the fridge in, if you can just see there, all of her awards that she's got in the first half of the year. So very proud of that.
No, it's all good, mate. Just great to be back. Great to have Shannon there with us too, and not in the same studio as us. It's even better.
Talk about cleaning up the breakfast bar. Good morning to Shannon Donato.
Good morning, Jez. Good morning, hello. And good morning to the great people at Zoom. And thank you for installing a wide lens on my computer so my head could fit into the screen, and an even wider one on Ello's. Well done.
And thanks for putting a baby rabbit on next to your monster head too.
Actually, that rabbit's actually 2 metres by 2 metres. Used to be on the side of the building at Redfern, but does look small compared to my fat melon.
Very good.
It's actually good to see you back in good form, Shannon, after last week's debacle.
Yeah, so I was a bit below form. I was like the Queensland Origin side, probably not quite that bad, even though I did feel like death last week. And unlike the Queensland Origin side, at least I dug deep and put in. So slight dig to all our Queensland brethren there as well, except of course the Jai Arrow, because they're way too big for me.
Actually, it's been one of the positives of the lockdown, Jez. He couldn't go out for lunch yesterday because everything's closed down. So that's why we've got him in a good state today.
Hello, I'm going to say, with the loss of my business, I'm worried they're never going to open up again, some of my favourite restaurants and cafes. Try to help them.
Oh, very good. Now let's get onto our first topic, as we do each week. Something that I've learned this week. We'll go to you, Shannon.
Jez, I've learned just how important sport is to the fabric of our community. I mean, we're obviously hardcore rugby league people, all of us, but just speaking to people how much they were looking forward to Origin on Sunday, and that was only, a couple of days into the lockdown. And I remember last time, around this time last year when, Sydney had been in a lockdown for over a month, and really everybody was craving this sport. So it's really important to the fabric of our community. I guess it gives everybody something to look forward to, something that mixes up the everyday life and has excitement, cheers you up, and can relieve stress. So it just made me realise how important sport and particularly our club are to our community.
Absolutely. What about you, Ello? What have you learnt this week?
Just a couple of things, Jez. The first one was the power of social media. I mean, the 11th hour before the state of origin, the winger they've brought into the squad gets ruled out because he doesn't qualify under the rules of the game. And when we look at it after it, and the media reports that it was a guy tweeting it that gave him up, and he was, outside the age group, which was unfortunate for Queensland, but it made sure the rules were put in place. So, I mean, there's a great way for spreading information. That's the first thing I learned, because I'm not heavily involved in it, as you know, in social media. So that proved a powerful thing, particularly for New South Wales in the end, to disrupt the Queenslanders. And the other thing I've realised, people are, staying at home during this period. I've come into work this morning. There's hardly many cars and then on the road, which is great to see that people are staying at home and just following the protocols that are set in place. Because no one wants to be locked down, but everyone sees it as a greater need for not only Sydney and New South Wales, but Australia and across the world. So it's going to help us out. And the other thing I think that's going unnoticed in this pandemic is I think we've got to find some more areas for dogs and their well-being. I mean, I see them out walking with their partners, with their parents, whatever you want to call them, and you can see them. They're just trudging, their heads down, their tongues are out, and they've got calluses on their pads in their feet. I mean, they're going for about 8 walks a day, these poor buggers. I mean, notice everyone's out walking, and, the people walking, the couples, they look like they actually like each other too. That's amazing in this, boy, how the pandemic's brought everyone together. But I'm really concerned about the dogs.
Yeah.
Okay? Not so much my dog, but for the dogs out in the community, because mine only goes once a day.
A few of the dogs felt they had to go to the Bondi Hotel to get out and about there last week, which caused a bit of a problem. Oh, dear. I learned
Hello's dog only gets out once a day to South Coogee Bowling Club for a couple of schooners. No wonder it needs some exercise, Hello.
Well, you'll be amazed it's locked down like every other place in Sydney.
Yes. Oh, you mentioned, Hello, that social media is not your forte. You might be pleased to hear you're a bit of a cult hero. There's a Mark Ellison fan page going around on Facebook. It's got 3 members, apparently, Raylene Ellison, Josh Ellison, and the Jewel Chinese restaurant at South Junior. So you are a cult hero, Mark. And seriously, though, in terms of social media, and you're talking about, the debacle up in Queensland with their selections and whatnot, it's hard to be too critical of them because they're just starting to get social media up there in Queensland. So they're just they're catching up to the rest of us. And Ella, you mentioned walking the dogs and, their heads down and their tongues out. I thought you were referring to the Queenslanders actually at first when you mentioned that, but very good. Number 1.
Oh, there we go. Well, I've learned a couple of things this week. I've learned that 3 old blokes can work a podcast remotely via Zoom. Looks like it's working, gentlemen. So I'm very happy with our performances here.
Think of yourself as an old bloke, Jez. You're a kiddie, are you? That's because you look older than us, all right?
The other thing that I learnt this week was that Phil Blake played 16 minutes of Origin footy in 1989. For anyone that listened to last week's episode, I made the error to say that Phil Blake should have played Origin football, and Ello picked me up on it, saying that he thought that Blake had actually played some footy, and one of our historians and our most avid listener, of course, tuned in and told us that Phil Blake actually played 16 minutes of Origin footy. Brad Ryder, he let us know that. So he's always good for a bit of feedback, Brad. And I was 16 minutes off being right.
Missed by that much, Jez.
I didn't want to jump in last week, Jez, but I just had so I didn't want to give our listeners any false information, which
Correct.
You never give, mate. So I thought it was important that we go out with the facts, and we always do. We always say that Shannon has had 3 bacon and egg rolls before he gets on here, so we don't want to change anything.
I was going to say, none of these stories have ever been embellished on this show, so we're always about truth here at the Top 4 Podcast.
Correct.
Excellent. Right, well, let's get on to our first Top 4 topic of the morning, and we're going to have a look at some of the positional players for the Rabbitohs over the years, and we're going to start at the back with the top 4 Rabbitohs fullbacks of all time. We'll go to you first on this one, Ello. You can't vote for yourself after you hit on Michael Erickson either.
He makes one tackle, honestly. It's like the story, one go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry,
Thanks,
that's knocked his first one out, Shannon.
I've got nothing left. There was none better than me as a fullback in South Sydney. Why we talking about 4 of them? What are you joking or what? No, obviously the little master himself, Clive Churchill. We didn't get to see him play, but from all reports, revolutionised and changed the fullback role in games across the world. He became the little master, the running fullback. and he changed fullbacks used to get involved back in those days, apparently in kicking duels, and didn't really get much involved. They were just there as a last line of defence, basically, and a bit of a link man here and there. But he ran the ball, and he goes down. They've named, obviously, as we know, the greatest award, on Grand Final day, the Clive Churchill Medal. That's an honour to tell you how good he was here at the Rabbitohs. The next one.
Sorry, Yellow. Before we move on from Clive Churchill, he's two things on that. I love going to the SCG and seeing the size of his grandstand compared to Dally Messenger's.
Yeah.
The Rabbitohs grandstand is about 20 times the size of the Roosters one. That makes me really happy.
Yeah, I know.
The other thing with Clive Churchill.
Imagine if they made one for me and Shannon, Jez.
We'd go to Wollongong.
The other thing that with Clive, he's the Rabbitohs' only immortal, and I reckon that's just not right. Like some of the players that have been part of this club over the years, guys like Ron Coote and Bob McCarthy, John Sattler, particularly Ron Coote with his record at both the Rabbitohs and Eastern Suburbs, with the success that he had in grand finals and winning premierships and captaining his country. I cannot work out how he hasn't been made an immortal to this point, especially with the influx of immortals that they inducted last time. So I'm hoping that Ron Coote at least can get the recognition that he deserves as an immortal, standing next to someone like Clive Churchill.
Yeah, well said, Jez. I think we'd all be agreed on that. And what a great man, even outside his rugby league career. He had a great career in business. Almost made McDonald's synonymous with Coote. And rhyming slang, the old Ronnie Coote, he was good. Just people know him by that, but just he's one of the great men that I've met in rugby league.
Boot. An Ugg boot.
Oh, boot. I actually worked for Ron Coote in one of his McDonald's as a kid, seriously.
Oh, dear. Yeah. That was the one that went broke. That's when they phased out employee discounts.
Hey, there were no discounts. Only what you can carry, Jez.
That's when I bought my first ute, actually.
Semi.
We'll have to do this by Zoom more often.
No, seriously, I did work for Ron and Robin in their King's Cross store. I grew up in one of them just down the road. I think I've mentioned that once or twice. That I grew up.
I wasn't sure where you came from, Shannon.
You've certainly mentioned McDonald's, but
our great friends, great sponsors of the Rabbitohs, actually McDonald's, and as a Rabbitohs, tragic as a kid, getting to actually work. Like he'd come in the store and he'd work quite often, Ron, and getting to work alongside Ron was just an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to going. I used to hope every shift that Ron was in there, and obviously his lovely wife Robin as well. And it's always nice when people you idolise turn out to be really, really nice people, and that's certainly the case for me as a kid when I was first working for Ron and Robin Coote. Beautiful people, beautiful family.
Lovely tribute.
And beautiful chicken nuggets as well.
There were some days you'd hope they weren't in when you were hungry, that's for sure.
One for you, one for me.
No. Two for me, one for you.
Oh, very good.
We've got to ease down a bit. You'll get a complex.
Yeah, exactly. Who's your next fullback, Yellow?
Well, I'm just going sort of in order to the next one. It's hard to go past the great Eric Sims, obviously. Still the point scoring record at the Rabbitohs. They changed. We say revolutionised, as in the little master revolutionised the running game. Simsy revolutionised the field goal game by changing the rule, which is just goes to show how good he was at field goals and things like that. But even apart from, you talk to any of the players that played with him, he wasn't just a good goal kicker, a good keeper of the football. He was a very good player. Apart from all that, I mean, he gets lauded because of his great point scoring, point scoring records over the years. But he was a good footballer outside of that. And you ask any of the players that play with him, they rate him very highly. My next one, GI. How do you go past him? Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're going to go pretty close to the same ones here, I'd say. But another guy that when he came to the Rabbitohs was playing Sano, and he'd be the first to admit he was a little bit unfit, a little bit overweight, and was playing in the centres till he got a bit of match fitness. And 2012 I think we were 9-3, and we played Penrith at Penrith Park one Sunday afternoon. I still remember it on the side. It was about 30 degrees, very hot day, and Greg just absolutely destroyed them from fullback. And he had played a fullback with the Storm. He played 5'8", he played centre, but he was a great centre. He's probably the world's greatest centre, and he probably almost the world's greatest fullback when he played there as well. So he did things that we spoke about 100 times, Greg Inglis, but you never get sick of talking about that try he scored from fullback up at Suncorp Stadium, 2014. One of the greatest tries I've ever seen. And he could do things that others couldn't do. And the biggest thing about Greg as a fullback was he saved more tries than he actually scored with his defence. There's not many fullbacks in the game, no matter where you are, what era, could probably say that. And he could do that because he had a wonderful defensive technique. He had a great knowledge of positional play. And at his best at fullback at the Rabbitohs was probably some of the best football he ever played in his career, I'd say. And so we were lucky we had him here. And we go down. Obviously, we talk about Sam and the GF and everything in 14. Sam was, remarkable in that. But, if Sam hadn't have been there, we'd have struggled. And if GI hadn't have been there, we'd have struggled too. But, great performance. And, Latrell Mitchell's the next one, mate. I don't care whether he played a great game in the centres the other night. He's proved himself as a centre, but he has some silky skills, and in his handling of the football, he's like Greg. He can play 5'8", he can play fullback. He's got the touch, he's got the power, he's got the speed, he's got the game awareness, and each one of these fullbacks, has represented their country. They're all talked about in all their eras as greatest players of their era. So we've just been blessed to have them at our club.
Absolutely. I had the exact same 4 players, Ello, and it just shows the quality of those guys that we all think the same on that in such an important position on the field as well. It's probably grown in importance, the fullback position these days, playing as a second 5'8", chiming into back lines, putting on those plays for outside backs. And as we've spoken about before, Greg, as he was coming back to the back end of his career, became a great decoy as well, because he'd drag in 3 or 4 defenders and leave the line open for the guys like Alex Johnston and Nathan Merritt and these guys that were scoring tries for fun, playing outside of Greg when he'd chime around on the left-hand side. And I'm sure it'll be the same with Latrell at the moment. Yeah. He's playing such brilliant footy. I've said it before, he's a triple threat with his pace, his power and his skill. But eventually he's going to get to a point where he starts to drag in the defenders and he doesn't even need to touch the ball to be setting up tries.
Well, there was a great try scored to get the first try scored against the Broncos in our last game. We'd been always getting the ball to Alex to score on the wing or the left centre, depending what happens. And that came. Latrell would normally throw the final pass, but there was a new option for us the other night when Cody went to throw it out there and just flicked the ball back inside to Latrell. I mean, their defence, about 3 of them have gone back behind to cover, as you do. That's exactly how they're taught to defend in that situation. But they didn't expect Latrell to get it back inside, and he goes over untouched.
Yeah.
And, Craig and Latrell, sorry, Shannon.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that was an amazing try. And I remember sitting at home thinking, Is that something that they practice, they worked on, or is that just something instinctive they have as a combination?
I think it's instinctive. I think it's just a little, I'm inside. And, you know, it's what the great players have got. I just spoke a little bit before about awareness in defence of where you got to be to stop a try. It's also just, you know, being around the ball and knowing where the ball's going to end up. Yeah, we talk about fullbacks. I'm just going to a little bit of a side. He played a lot of wing at our club, but Nathan Merritt also had that ability to pop up where the ball was to score tries. You know, and you know, Nathan didn't play a lot of fullback here, but he did play a bit, and he had that ability to be where the ball was to score a try. And it's, you know, it's freakish.
It is.
It is, yeah. It's amazing the in such a short time, the combinations that have developed between Trell and Gags and AJ and, you know, even, you know, Stretch out there. They just, you know, they play a lot of heads up footy and they just seem to get it right 99 times out of 100. They know where the other one's going to be. And that's really, really hard to defend against because it's, as you said, it's just instinctive. And how do you have a set defensive pattern to counteract that? It's pretty difficult.
Yeah. I mean, just going back to the 4 fullbacks we chose, it sort of epitomises our club that they're all Indigenous too. You know, and they've just been fantastic for our club. You know, and we pride ourselves on our Indigenous culture. And, you know, we picked 4 of the greatest players to have played for our club, to be fair. And they will go down in the history as that. And they're all Indigenous players.
Yeah. Another great Indigenous fullback we had at our club, probably played his best football elsewhere, was the great Reese Wesser.
Yeah.
Geez, he could play some footy when he was at his peak and probably wasn't at his peak when he was with us, but geez, he still had his pace and still had his vision and he could bust a defensive line open whenever he wanted to, and another great fullback that we've had at our club.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Shannon, did you have any other nominees for the top fullbacks?
I did because I knew you guys were going to pick those guys, and rightly so. They're all fantastic fullbacks. My 4 great Rabbitohs fullbacks. 2 of them are Indigenous as well, and fantastic players, and play for other clubs, but also the Rabbitohs. 3 of the 4 are actually Origin players or higher in terms of representative honours. So it just goes to show the depth of God. And the first one I want to talk about is the great David Peachey. Peachey was a fantastic. He could do some. You talk about instinct. He was just all instinct. Peach. He'd know where to pop up, where the gaps were going to come, and he was always sniffing around the football and was a fantastic player. Played elsewhere and perhaps, like you said, just played his best football elsewhere, but was still pretty good when he was here at the Rabbitohs and was a fantastic player all round.
I think Peach had a good effect on our club off the field as well. He was one of the pioneering players to get involved with South Cares when it first kicked off, and he had that strong connection with the Indigenous community, and he helped foster the club's modern day connection with the community. And I think Peach made an equally important contribution to this club off the field as he did on the field.
Peach, I was fortunate enough to be the assistant coach when Peach was with us, and you know, Peach came as the first year. Russell came in and took over the club, and it was sort of a transitional period where we had to improve. We'd have probably 5 or 6 very lean years leading into it. And the one thing I know about Peach was he brought in the practice of extras after training, which is something that you can't really drive as a coach. You need the players to do that to buy into it, because they need to enjoy it and they need to see it's helping them. And he brought that culture to our club in 2007. He used to get particularly the younger blokes out on the field after training and teach him those little skills you spoke about, Shannon. You know, the things that aren't in textbooks, the things about game awareness and just talking to your mate and giving him a little heads up on the field. You know, I'll stay there, I'll come back. And, you know, little things like that a lot of people don't know about. He was responsible for doing that. And, you know, I tip my hat to him for what he did here at our club.
Spot on, boys. Yeah, Peach was great on and off the field. He was always a crowd favourite wherever he went, and part of it was because he was always sort of giving back to the members and community, and a great guy, and still doing similar things out in Dubbo, actually. And it was great to see him out there at the at the Dubbo match. So Peach, the great Dave Peach, he's obviously one of mine. Jez stole one of mine in Reese Wesser. On his day, at the time, probably the best fullback in the game, certainly the fastest fullback in the game. He was just Reese Lightning, as we used to call him, and he was a very special player and did some sublime things, and had the pleasure of playing with Reese, and I always felt better when I knew Reese was in the side, because you're always a chance of winning a game, and certainly always a chance of scoring a try any side that Reese Wesser was in. The third one is in Jez's theme again, a fullback who might have played his best football elsewhere, but was a great footballer, played for Australia as well. Crossed over a little bit with him in my career at the Rabbitohs, and that was Tim Brasher. A lot of people think of Brash as a Tiger and played more football at the Tigers, but he was good here and he had a good influence. It was at a time when our club was struggling and we were probably a bit short in terms of leaders and elite level players. And Brash come over and he again brought professionalism with him and was a great acquisition for the club at a time when we needed a player of his calibre and leadership. So Tim Brash is another great fullback who played for Australia and played for the Rabbitohs. So that's three of my four. I was going to say Clive Churchill, but he's been spoken about at length, so I might just throw one more in. It wasn't in my original four, but I've just got to say we made our first grade debut at the same time, and not quite in the same calibre as Clive Churchill, but Craig Carrington, very underrated fullback. He was an international at schoolboy level, I think at junior rep level, and Caro was one of the most instinctive natural footballers. Wasn't big, wasn't that strong, but his pace off the mark was second to none. Also, like all good fullbacks, had a great instinct of where to be at the right time, and came through a south side that was struggling, and probably would have played a lot more first grade had we had more experienced players around us at the time at the club. But very, very underrated fullback. So Caro's probably lucky to be in this class, but it's certainly some great fullbacks that were spoken about in. And my four were the great Peach, Reese Wesser, Tim Brasher, and Craig Carrington.
Some excellent nominations there, and we'll start to go through some of these positional players, because we'll find that, I think that, like Ello was saying before, with someone like GI where they played fullback and centre and won a Churchill medal at 5'8", that there might be some crossover. So it'll be an interesting discussion to have about the top four in each position for the Rabbitohs. But, some big names there, and great to reminisce on some of the greats there. We'll be back
some big names there, Jez, and Craig Carrington.
Yeah.
I was going to say, do you need some shutters at home? You're looking for a discount there, Shannon.
You know me well, LA. You know I'm the king of contra.
Righto, we'll be back after this short break. Now, Rabbitohs merchandise in these lockdown times here in Sydney, it's best to jump onto shop.rabbitohs.com.au at the moment to purchase your merchandise, because the merchandise store at the juniors at Kingsford is closed for the next couple of weeks.
Excuse me, Jess. Can I just interrupt there?
You can.
Are the storm techs in?
Well, you'd hope so. We've been talking about it for about 6 months.
They're only about 2 weeks away, Yellow.
Shannon's got one hanging up behind him on his Zoom call at the moment. The green storm techs.
Hey, you know what are in, seriously, for this kind of weather, is the Rabbitohs flannelette top shirts. They are fantastic. They're very warm, cosy, perfect for this kind of weather. And also from the Cotton On range, we've got some Snuggets in, which people are probably more familiar with hoodies, but Snuggets in a very similar type of product and vein. And we've got the Snuggets and the flannelettes, all perfect merchandise for winter and isolating at home.
Are you allowed to wear the flannels in Vaucluse?
I don't live in Vaucluse.
Oh, sorry. You moved to the 6-bedroom garage in Coogee. That's
when
right.
When I'm walking around bloody East Gardens, everyone's saying, I thought you shopped at Vaucluse.
I hope you weren't at East Gardens last Friday, Shannon.
No, I wasn't. I was talking pre-COVID, Jez, of course.
See how excited he got when he said Snuggets? Nuggets?
When we made the bulk order, I was very disappointed when it came and it was all of these warm blanket type. I was very disappointed.
Did you buy them in a pack of 24?
Yeah. And they didn't come with sweet and sour sauce, unfortunately.
Snake nuggets.
Well,
I
there you,
encourage everyone to get on, check out the Snuggets and the Fernolette tops.
very good. I like that. So jump on to shop.rabbitohs.com.au to check out all of the great Rabbitohs merchandise. Now, our next top 4 topic for the morning, the top 4 cheekiest players that you've been involved with. I thought we might get some good stories out of this topic, so we'll start with you on this one, Shannon.
Okay.
Does Craig Carrington get a run in this one?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. Although he was a cheeky bugger, still is actually to this day. But no, he doesn't. I've got enough lines, thanks, Jez.
Phil Howlett will get a run in this one, I reckon.
You mentioned last week I was a little bit under the weather after to be, and talking about being cheeky. To be honest, had a few drinks the night before with my lovely wife, and I just reminded me about when you said about cheeky players. Remind me of a comment that I had from my wife that didn't go down too well. I was having a few drinks, and as you do with your lovely wife, I sort of gazed over and gazed down and said to her, I just said, "Geez, I love you." And she said, "Is that you talking or the wine talking?" I said, "That's me talking to the wine." Yeah, it didn't go down very well. So,
oh, he's back. He's back.
I had to make amends for the poor performance last week to keep my split in the Origin side. My 4 players are, unsurprisingly, all halfbacks, and some of the best halfbacks are always cheeky players. And I'll start with Daryl Trindle. He was always mouthing off. He was mouthing off to the referee. He was mouthing off to the opposition. He'd often mouth off to the crowd if someone was giving him a spray and were close to the sideline. He was, cheeky is an absolute euphemism when it comes to Daryl Trindle, and hasn't changed much since he's retired either. He's always good with a one-liner, the great Daryl Trindle. So he's my number 1 cheeky player, closely followed by another great South Sydney halfback in Craig Field. Fieldsy, grew up with Fieldsy, playing in junior footy, played in my brother's side, and I was their ball boy for a while. And from a very young age, he was always mouthing off, and he's had his trials and tribulations off the field, but was always a cheeky player, always deep down inherently a good guy, and but was, so mouthy on the field. I used to be just trying to suck in the air and fill my lungs, and he was just going 6 to the dozen and never shut up, Fieldsy. So he was one. And another one, I'm not sure whether you guys will remember him, but he's one of the all-time mouthiest players that I ever played with. And even at training, he would not shut up. We'd be doing 400s, and you could barely breathe, and he was just jabbering the whole time and sledging the whole time. And that's a little halfback that we had at South called Troy Bizet. You remember Troy, Ella?
Yes.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. He played at a few clubs, but he and he was a very sharp player as well. All of my cheeky players were very good players as well. But
he's got a young son coming through the Storm system, I think now, Shannon.
Yeah, that's right. I think we came through the grades at South together and won the President's Cup, and I think Blocker Roach was the coach at the time, and I think he was living with Block at the time, actually. Block was such a good guy. He took him into his house because he came from somewhere regionally. But I just remember, who is this bloke? Like, we were all sort of inner city types who used to sledging, but he was on another level. He was like Winks compared to the rest of us when it came to sledging. He was just an all-time great. So Troy Bizet was another one. And as I said, all of them were halfbacks, and you can't go past cheeky halfbacks without talking about Tugger Coleman. Tugger was cheeky as a player, and I didn't know him so much as a player. I think I would have played against him once or twice, but I knew him more as a coach when he came back to South. And even as a coach, he was sledging the opposition, and you didn't play a good game. Sometimes he was sledging you, but he was, even as a coach, he was always cheeky and always ready to give a bit of a lip and quick with a one-liner. So, yeah, my cheeky players, all great South halfbacks in Daryl Trindle, Craig Field, Troy Bizet, and Tugger Coleman.
Excellent list. Excellent. Ello, who's on your list? I'm tipping Tugger was probably on your list.
Tugger, he was up there number one. As Shannon said, he just barred no one. I mean, he back in the day, he even got away with giving it to referees. He used to call Bill Harrigan some of the worst names that I can't say on here. Yeah, he'd just give it to Bill Harrigan, in gay. I'm sure it was detrimental to us at some stages. I'm sure at other times Bill Harrigan going, my God, what do I say? Come back to that. I also remember a day Greg Alexander was making his debut. It was a trial game here at Redfern Oval, and he'd just come out of he's very young. He'd come out of playing for Fairfield in the midweek schoolboy competition, and Tugger just annoyed him the whole day and said, was telling him, if you run, those boys will smash you. Alexander obviously got through that and became one of the great halfbacks of all time. But I mean, that was Tugger's, just competitiveness and just wanting to get over the top of people. As you say, he'd give his own players a bit of a serve at times. Thought he wasn't happy with the way they were going, me included at times. But that was just him. That was just how he played as a competitor. And everyone realised, mate, they all knew he wanted to win badly. And when people are in that mode, sometimes they say things that they might regret down the track. But you take it with a grain of salt and get on with it. But some of the serves, he used to hate Bill Harrigan, I'll tell you. And I don't think he'll mind saying that either.
I know how Bill used to react. He used to cop it off Tugger and then send Mario off.
Oh, yeah, no, very good. Mate, talking about Mario, Phil Blake, he was a cheeky bug. He used to give poor old Mario hell. I might have told the story again. For those who haven't heard it, I'm going to tell it. We used to train, obviously, the old Redfern Oval. And Mario would be always out in the field doing a little bit extra. I was talking about Peachy doing stuff. Mario would be out there doing it or just talking to the coach or talking to anyone because he loved talking, Mario. And
he still does, Ella.
Longer than anyone else, that's for sure. I think he talked to himself half the time. Anyway, Blanky got into this habit of probably every 3 or 4 weeks, he'd come to train and he'd be ready for his shower, get out after shower, and he'd put his undies on and the actual crutch area had been cut out. So the dusters are hanging out through the bottom of his undies when he's going, who did it? He didn't know who had done it. Blakey would get there with the scissors and just cut the crutch out. He wouldn't do it every week, but he'd wait 3 or 4 weeks and it was all forgotten. And then he'd get him again and everyone just burst into laughter. And they'd go, it's not funny, he was good. But Tricky Trindle, I played, he was around. I didn't play a lot with Tricky, but he was around when I was at the back end of my career. He's a cheeky little bugger. I didn't know him as well as Shannon, but you could see he had that that was one of the characteristics of the halfbacks that you needed to have at the time, and he was certainly up there with all of them in that area. But our own halfback now, Adam Reynolds, he's got to go down there as the pest. I mean, him and I have a magnificent relationship, as you know, and the last 3 or 4 months have been really tough. I mean, but I'm happy he's got a good way to go on with his career and stuff like that. But he gets it, and I get it. We've spoken about it. But some of the funny, I'll never forget, and I haven't told many people this story. Renault often walks past people and just gives a little flick in the genitalia area. And in the grand final in 2014, I used to stand on, there's a section that goes out the toilet shower area that goes into another part of the dressing room. So we used to lock that door, so it was just the team and the staff in that area. And when Madge stopped speaking, there's normally 3 or 4 minutes before we go back on the field. So I'd open the door back up so everyone can go to the toilet, do what they need to do before they go on the field. Anyway, we're leading 6-0 in the GF at halftime. It's pretty tense. Everyone comes back. He walks straight past, a little flick, and away we go. So, half-time of the biggest game of his life, and he could still be joking around with it. And he went on to play a big role in sealing that game for us in that second half. So, but he's just a pest around all the players. But blokes like that, pests around the team are endearing to everyone, and that's what you want in your club. And he's been the leader in that area since I've been in this administration sort of role compared to back in the playing days.
He is the Dally M pest of the decade. Don't worry about that.
Hello, you speak about, he flicks around the genitalia area, and I know it's all just a blokey environment. But if he's doing something around the genitalia area, just be thankful at halftime he didn't come off and give you a thumbs up.
Oh,
yes, I like that, Shannon. I'll keep that in mind this weekend.
That might have been if we were leading 18-0 at half time.
Yeah. Who else you got, Ello? Is that your list?
Oh, well, I had Tricky in there. I got Blakey. That's about all I can think of.
Yep.
Mick Pobgy. He was a pest. He was cheeky, and he was such a quiet bloke off the field. And he wasn't so much a pest or annoying to us, but he annoyed the opposition. He would just, he'd just get up and he'd growl in people's faces when he tackled them. He'd get their head and push them into the ground. He just changed. He was like a monster when he went on the field. And, of course, when Rod and Willie used to rev him up too. Well, he didn't need any revving up. So when he got a rev up, you can imagine what he's like. I mean, they're the days he normally got sent off when he got revved up. He didn't need it normally. But he just annoyed opposition players. And he was cheeky to them the way he just got away with it, and no one would come back to him. He'd verbal them and call their mothers terrible names and things like that. But, no, he was one of the best at that, I'd have to say, Podge. But off the field, church mouse.
Oh, there you go. Very good. Well, I've got a list here that's got a few different names, and I had Renault on there. He's the king of the pests. No one's safe, not even Wayne. Day one, they were into each other. Wayne bagging him about his tats, and Renault telling him he's old. And in the retirement home, it was that they were close to best mates from day one when Wayne arrived.
When Wayne first came, they were at Redford and they were standing on the trial line, but there was just him and Campbell Graham standing, and Wayne was to the right and Cam was to the left, just about 10 metres to the right, each side of the post. And Renault said, we play an AFL today, aren't we? We got the goalpost on the other side.
He is quick. He's quick.
Yeah.
So the other players I had on my list was my first one was Chris Sando. He was always quick with a witty remark, and he had a sense of fun, and that sense of fun was quite contagious around the team with Chrissy. He was very cheeky, and another halfback to add to the list while he was with us. Someone that's not a halfback who I had on my list was Jeff Lemar. Now, he was only with us for a very short time, but geez, he was a funny bugger. And we used to do a series of videos with him throughout the season called Hey Cuzzy, where he'd go around and interview the players, and it'd be the Shannon Donato style joke of who's your favourite teammate and why am I? And the boys had just bagged the hell out of him, and he'd come back with a witty remark and just shut him down. He was good fun, Jeff Lemar, when he was with. It was only a short time, but he made a lasting impression. Another guy that I had on my list was Isaac Luke. Now, Bully was up there with one of the great pests, and then he teamed up with Adam Reynolds, and it was almost like a double act. It was impossible to get away from them, and very cheeky Bully. I don't know if he was cheeky in terms of mouthing off at people on the field or anything like that, but around training, you just couldn't get away with anything around Bully, and he'd track you down. If he had you in his sights, he'd track you down and just take the PISS out of you all day. Anything for his own entertainment, Bull. So he was a very cheeky player, and of course, as we mentioned, Adam Reynolds, he was the final one on my list. So you got to have those sorts of players around your squad, don't you? Or else things can get a little bit too serious. You need someone to break the ice and keep it fun.
Sure do. And it's, as you say, Jez, it's probably these times more than ever when you're in the lockdown and you're coming to train. It's good to have that. Like Renault's fantastic this time. Like you come in, you get your entertainment. You don't have to see them when you get home on the TV or anything like that. You get it when you're here every day from him. So, they make a difference in your team. Good for team morale and good for just having a laugh along the way.
Absolutely.
They are good for clubs. I find those players like Vegemite, just in small doses. You don't want too much. It comes on too strong and it becomes a bit much. You just need it spread nice and thin. Otherwise, it's too much. I play with players who are that punishing. Honestly, they would give Panadol a headache. They would just go on and on and on. They're great to have around, but in small doses.
The old Pex paste.
Yes. John, you're
A little bit goes a long way.
Indeed.
All right, we will be back after this short break. Now, we've talked about it a little bit over the last few months, and it's Rabbitohs Plus. It's the new initiative from the Rabbitohs, which give you services that you will use every day, from travel deals to home and contents insurance, credit cards, car insurance, home loans, anything like that that are services where you use them every day. Rabbitohs Plus can help you out with that. And to check out everything with Rabbitohs Plus, head to plus.rabbitohs.com.au. And Shannon, you've said that your wife has worked over the credit cards. She got about 5 home loans for the new house in Vaucluse and Coogee. And
I'm going to take you for slander. It's bad enough you're sledging and besmirching mine, but my poor wife, I'm saying that about 5 credit cards. It's not 5, it's 7. But anyway.
She clearly doesn't listen to the podcast because it hasn't been me pushing the credit card line.
Seriously, the Rabbitohs Plus program is excellent. Uncertain times at the moment, and it's always glad to have insurance at these times because you never know what's going to happen. And as I've said before, we've worked really hard with our partners to ensure that whatever products we got are the highest service at the best possible rate. So whether that be home and contents insurance, whether that be finance via credit cards, personal loans, even home loans with Community First Credit Union are our partner there. So they're like us, they're a member-owned organisation, non-for-profit, and they give their benefits back through their members and their partners. So they've got market-leading rates for their loans and their finance products. So as I always say, I encourage all of our members to get on to the site and have a look at what's on offer there.
Excellent. Yes, plus.rabbitohs.com.au to check out everything about Rabbitohs Plus. Now, our trivia question from last week was State of Origin theme because we're in the middle of Origin season. Who was South Sydney's first State of Origin player? Now, he played for New South Wales in the first game in 1980, and as I said, you could have worked out the answer had you listened to the Rabbitohs radio podcast last week because they featured this gentleman as part of their show. They're remembering a Rabbitoh segment. So, gentlemen, have you done your homework? Have you been listening to Chaps Mavo and Brownie?
I have been listening to Chaps Mavo and Brownie, and I'm not sure which episode this guy featured, but I'm going to take a stab in the dark and say Ziggy Niscott.
Ello, your thoughts?
I was going to say that, but I'd change it to Tony Rampling.
Neither of you listened to the last episode of Rabbitohs Radio, clearly. The answer was Gary Hambley.
Oh, of course.
Yes, Gary Hambley played for New South Wales.
In the he wear his stockings?
I'm glad you said that.
Naturally, he used to wear stockings as like compression garments that they do these days to stop chafing.
He's a revolutionary.
Yeah, true story.
That's very good.
He's a great guy, Gary.
Unlike Phil Blake not playing Origin last week, Jez.
Did Blakey ever cut the crutch out of his stockings?
I think he might have that night. That's why he never got a run.
Now,
Actually,
our trivia question for next week. How many Rabbitohs have won the Dally M Player of the Year award? Who were they and in what years did they win? So another 3-barrel question, but I'm sure a lot of people will know the answer to this one. He's an absolute champion, the man that we're looking for in this answer. So how many Rabbitohs have won the Dally M Player of the Year award? Who were they? And in what years did they win? So we can, we'll give you the
That's
answer.
obviously one, Jez, after
Well,
that.
yeah, I buggered that up, didn't I? But anyway, we'll let everyone have a little bit of another hint there. There's only one. That's the answer to the first one. Excellent. Righto, we'll be back after this break. Now, if you're looking for your next epic holiday once this lockdown finishes, maybe a long weekend away with your mates, or you need to get to the next game, then it's time to What If It. What If has great deals on accommodation, flights, car hire and more. And because they're the official travel partner of the South Sydney Rabbitohs, you can head to whatif.com/Rabbitohs and use the promo code Rabbitohs15 to save 15% on select hotels. Now, conditions apply with that offer, but head to whatif.com/Rabbitohs and plan your next trip after this lockdown finishes. And I'm sure we're all keen to make sure we can get out of the house and get out and about again. And What If could be the answer to that.
Indeed, Jez. I was talking to Gab the other day, my lovely wife, Gabrielle, and, I was saying I can't wait to have a break. She said, well, yeah, why don't we do it? I said, okay, I'll take you somewhere you've never been before. And she said, okay. So I took her to the kitchen.
You can't recycle your jokes.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Poor Gab. Where is she? You're looking at her over the top of your screen right now as she comes running at you with a butcher's knife.
She's taking the dogs for a walk, actually, Jess. Which actually reminds me, you start talking about getting out and stretching your legs. I took the dogs down the dog park the other day, and I saw my dog just wander off in the distance. He was sitting next to another dog, and the other dog started licking its own backside. I saw my dog look at it. My dog said to it, what are you licking your own backside for? And the other dog said, I just did a wrist support. I'm trying to get the taste out of my mouth.
Oh, no.
So hopefully we can all get out a bit more and stretch our legs and have some fabulous What If holidays once the restrictions ease.
I was going to say, are these jokes approved by What If?
Actually, Daniel Finch, their managing director, he's got one of the best sense of humours ever. In fact, he once told me I was a good footy player, so he's definitely very, very funny.
So, good sense of humour, terrible judge of footballer.
No, we need a new sponsor called What The?
WTF. Anyway, let's get back on topic. Jump on whatif.com/Rabbitohs. Use that promo code Rabbitohs15. You can save 15% on select hotels. What If? It's Aussie for travel. All right, Shannon, it's time for your joke of the week. I hope you didn't just use it up.
No, I didn't, Jez. I've got one. It's on point at the moment with COVID, and it was a story I heard from a good friend of mine, actually, in the COVID ward at Prince of Wales up there at Randwick, and the doctor was doing his rounds, and it's, COVID's not a laughing matter, but, there are some funny stories that come out of it, and the doctor is doing his rounds, and he gets to a young man and checks him out, and he says, yeah, mate, you're going to be fine, and he gets a poor bloke, he's been working 14 hours, hasn't stopped, the poor doctor, and hasn't had something to eat. And he gets to an old lady and he checks her out. He says, look, you're on the mend. I think you're going to get better. And he noticed she has some peanuts in a bowl beside the bed, the old lady. She says, listen, I haven't had lunch yet. I've just been working 14 hours non-stop. I know it's a COVID ward and, this is your space, so feel free to stop me. But I noticed you've got those bowl of peanuts beside your bed. Would you mind if I had a couple? I'm absolutely starving. And she says, no, dear, no, you got to work, got to keep your nutrition up, help yourself. So he has a couple and he really enjoys them. He's starving, has a couple more. He says, oh, look, I feel really bad. I've eaten just about all your peanuts. And she said, no, I'm glad you can enjoy them. I can only suck the chocolate off them these days.
Oh, dear. Oh, that's your best one in a while.
That's good.
That is good. As we say, very good. Ello, we're back to you next week.
Yeah, that'll be hard to beat, that one.
No, I know you'll step up to the plate. You always do. Righto, we'll be back after this short break. Thanks very much for listening, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to jump on rabbitohs.com.au/podcasts or onto Twitter at SSFC Rabbitohs and give us your topic suggestions that we can talk about in our top 4 podcast each week. Don't forget to give us a review and a 5-star rating on your podcast apps and tune into the other podcasts on the Rabbitohs Podcast Network. We've got our Rabbitohs Insider. We've got our midweek media conferences, which are back on this week now that we have footy back on the board. And always tune in to Rabbitohs Radio with Chaps, Mavo and Brownie. They're doing a great job with Rabbitohs Radio. They're putting their signs up all over the place, all over the South Sydney district. They're getting plugs left, right and centre, trying to get their listenership up. And they're also diving into Rabbitohs TV on YouTube, and they need to get some more subscribers on the Rabbitohs Radio and Rabbitohs TV YouTube channel. So search them out on YouTube so that they can do some live broadcasts and get more and more Rabbitohs content going out there to keep us all connected in the community, which is Rabbitohs Radio's motto, is connecting the Rabbitohs community. So thanks for joining us, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us from home or in the office there, Ello, and big game against the Tigers this week. We're all looking forward to it. There won't be any crowd, but that probably works in our favour playing at Leichhardt.
Yeah, I don't think it'll hurt, Jez. It's a pity. I mean, the players love it. It's a weird feeling playing with no crowd there. But the biggest positive is we've done it before. We did it up in Brisbane last year, so we know what it's like. We did it in other games as well. It's just a sign of the times, unfortunately. It's a pity. I think it was going to be a sellout at Leichhardt, but it is what it is. We'll turn up. We've just got to have our game head on, and 2 points is vital, as in every week. But we keep ticking those 2 points over, mate. We're going to be in the position we want to be come the end of the year.
I heard Benji on Fox League NRL 360 this week saying there's probably a little bit in him that's grateful that there's no crowd at Leichhardt this week for him. Returning back to Leichhardt for the first time in a long time. He said he's never run out of the away sheds in a competition game.
Yeah, well, there you go. He'd have been worried a bit about that, Benji, but, what he's done in the game across a few different clubs now, it wasn't he didn't walk out on them. It's just one of those things that happen. So, he's accepted everywhere he goes, and he's been a great part of our club at the time he's been here.
He's starting to climb the ladder on the all-time first-grade player list as well. He's this week he jumped Sutto and Freddie Fittler. They were on 336, the same as Benji. He jumps up to 337. So he goes equal with one of his former teammates in Darius Boyd on 337th in equal 9th. And then the next game, he jumps up to 338 alongside another former teammate in Chris Hyington. So he's got some mates that he can bag, saying I'm jumping the ladder rungs week after week, jumping in front of you. So he's doing well, Benji. He's doing well.
He'll probably remind them too.
Yeah, and congratulations to him and his wife on the birth of their baby recently. And there's been a few babies at the Rabbitohs. Hame Sele had a baby. Brock Schaefer, our operations manager, he's had a baby. Ben Klinker had a digital. He's had a baby. There's a few around the way. Shannon, when's yours due?
Oh, choose more than enough for me, Jez. I can see the queues in the rack well and truly. But I know it's been some cold nights, but I'll just encourage all of our players to get some TVs in their bedroom. I need them focusing on their
TCLs? TCLs?
TCL footies, of course. Talk about Benji being able to bag some mates, as he jumps them on the all-time playing record. LA doesn't need any more mates to bag. He just hones in on me. So LA,
he doesn't have time to bag any other mates between you and Block.
You're my mate.
Yeah.
Point in case. There you go. Talking about baggings, I heard the story. I don't know whether it's true or not. And you're speaking about the game at Leichhardt this weekend when Madge took over there and their first training session on Leichhardt Oval. He didn't know any of the boys and who played where. So his first training session, he said to all the Tigers, "Go and line up in your usual positions." And they all went and stood behind the goalpost.
That's not nice.
Hopefully they do
That's
plenty of that
not nice.
on the weekend.
I'm actually looking forward to seeing Madge from a social distance this week.
Yes,
It's always good to say good day and have a chat with Madge, an absolute legend of our club with what he achieved in 2014.
Great guy, Madge. Everybody has fond memories of his time here. Great guy, but not such a nice guy to be around after a loss. He takes a loss pretty hard, Madge. So you might be thankful for that social distancing, Jez, after the match if we beat them.
Yeah, that's an interesting story about Madge and you, Ello, on the podium after the grand final. We were supposed to be coaching players, and somehow the coach disappeared because he fell through the stage, and the football manager popped up.
Well, the most bewildering thing was the stage could hold me and not him.
You're taking all my lines, hello. You should have learned by now. If there's a camera around or a feed around, Ella would blow into a funeral. That's it.
Oh, excellent. Righto, well, as it is every week, the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast is powered by Audio Technica and proudly presented by What If. Thank you once again, gentlemen, and we'll see you all next week.
Thanks for listening to the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast, powered by Audio Technica and proudly presented by What If, official travel and pathways partner of the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Support the club and visit whatif.com/Rabbitohs to book your next trip. Don't forget to use the code Rabbitohs15 to get 15% off select hotels. Conditions apply. What If? It's Aussie for travel. Please leave us a 5-star rating and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Up the Rabbitohs.